Hello and welcome to another episode of Scott Schilling Speaks. I'm your host, Scott Schilling, and have a great friend on today who's going to share some information that, quite frankly, I think we all need to know. With the pandemic, so much has moved online that we better learn what's going on online. And if anybody can tell us that, it's my friend and expert, John Limbocker. John, thanks for being here today.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on. It's a great topic we're going to cover today, and everybody, like you said, everybody needs this. That's for sure.
So we want to talk about the state of the internet. How's that? Is that a broad enough place to start? And then we can narrow it down as we go.
Sure. And this applies to all business because there's a big shift going on, and it's not new. It's been going on for a while. This buyer shift. You remember how we used to buy stuff, right? We used to, if we needed something, what would we do? Pick up the yellow pages.
Right.
Remember those days? I mean, there might be some people listening don't even know what that is.
More than likely, that would be true.
But it was this big book that had everything in it. Kind of like the internet is this big electronic book now that has everything in it. So it's been a progressive shift. But the other thing, this is where small business owners are really feeling the pinch, because most of us in the small business arena have built our business on the back of referrals, right? I mean, it's almost a cliche. What's the best source of advertising? Word of mouth, right?
Word of mouth, for sure.
So that word of mouth has also shifted. It's no longer like the big book that we used to page through. It has moved to the internet too. And at this point, I mean, do you remember that show, Tool Time?
Yes.
Tim the Tool Man Taylor, right?
Absolutely.
Well, it was funny because he was always out at the fence talking to his neighbor, right?
Right.
And they were always sharing, referrals. It's like, hey, who do you use for this? Who do you use for that? And that used to be really common. That's the way we used to do it. If we needed something, we'd ask our neighbors, we'd ask our friends, who's the best ... And now, when was the last time you actually went out and asked somebody where to find something?
No, that's true. You don't do it that way anymore.
That's right.
Very true.
So who do you ask? Google.
Your best friend Google, right?
Google is now your neighbor. It's the one you talk to. And you know what? It's great because it's there 24/7. You wake up in the middle of the night with some crazy thought, and you want to know something or know where to get something, or if something even exists, you go to Google and you just ask. It is truly the new referral source. And this is like across all industries. I don't care what you're in or what you're doing, this is affecting you. And either you're using it to your advantage or you're feeling that pinch I was talking about. Like if your business was truly built on the back of referrals, they're drying up. If you're not getting them from Google now, I'm sure you're feeling that.
Yeah, you would think, with the pandemic, and the face-to-face being, lessened at varying levels across the country and across the continents even, you would think that most people have at least understood they need to go to the internet far more often, right?
Yeah.
But how do you fight through the masses to get the right information? There's a lot of information.
Oh yeah.
How do you get the right information?
Yeah, and Google is just one of these referral sources too. There's other ones, and they're called search engines. And I know most of you have heard of YouTube. That is one of the biggest search engines on the planet. And it's the same as Google, it's just different source of answers. It's video answers instead of text answers. So when you think about, these referral sources, think of it as search engines. They come in all shapes and sizes. If you're searching for products, there's a big one called Amazon.
Right. That would
You
be
know,
true.
or there's another big one called eBay. And what it is, you ask, you say, do you have this? Or how does this work? Or, whatever it is that you're looking for or want to know about, you go to one of these search engines, the one that's appropriate for you. Like, obviously, if you want product, you can go right directly to Amazon.
Right.
But Google is it's like the mother of all search engines. It will give you anything. Like, it will search all of them. If you ask on Google, it will give you the Amazon results. It'll give you the YouTube results. It's kind of an all-in-one. It's
An
it's
aggregator of all.
it has become the mother of all search engines. So now what you want to do is you want to become friends with this new referral source. You want this referral source to know what you do and how you do it so it can share your word. Just like in the old days, you would tell your neighbors what you did so they could spread your word for you.
Right.
Right? That was the best advertising on the planet, and it still is. It's just you have a new neighbor to do this for you, and he's big and he knows a lot of people.
He knows a lot of people and he knows a lot of stuff. But
Yeah.
again, how does the little guy or littler guy have the opportunity to create some advantage for themselves? I'm not going to say they're going to kick dirt on the big guy, but how do they go ahead and position themselves going forward?
Sure. I'm glad you asked that, actually, because there's a whole industry built around that, and it's called SEO. And SEO stands for search engine optimization. That's how you optimize yourself in the search so you can be found. And this has kind of been going on for a very long time. I've been in this game since before we even knew what to call it.
Before it had a name?
It didn't even have a name. I would go into companies and I would explain to them, this was way back, we're talking like in the mid 90s, late 90s. Everybody was getting into the websites, but they didn't really even know what it was. And I would go in and I would explain it to the companies. And I'd say, here's what you have. You have an electronic brochure. And the only way that a brochure works for your company is if you pull it out of the box and you put it in the hands of the right people. And they were totally on board with that. They totally got that now. And I said, I can do that for you with search engines. And back then, Google wasn't even around. It was like Alta Vista and Lycos and Web Crawler. But those were the big ones. So that was what we did. We would go in there, we would talk to them about that, and they would say, yeah, I want that. I want my brochure in the hands of the right people. So I would go to work and I would optimize their website so the search engines would show their site versus all the others that were out there. And there's a lot of pieces to that puzzle. It's not a simple, easy thing like it once was. It used to be, there was only a few things the search engine cared about. And
used to be just keywords, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just keywords. It was like you could put tags in your site that had all the keywords in it. And, they looked at that. If they saw what they liked, boom, you were at the top. It was the best keywords won. And then, too many people were all fighting for the same thing. And it got a little dirty. The game got dirty, cutting each other off.
I find that hard to believe. But
yeah, the competition, it really got cutthroat.
Yeah.
And the search engines got smarter. And what the search engine, this is what a lot of people don't understand about search engines and why they do what they do. The search engine is like a magazine, like a newspaper. And circulation is everything in that world because they sell ads. So if they provide a good user experience, people keep coming back and their circulation stays and it grows. And that's what they want. But when you've got a bunch of guys that know how to manipulate the system and they can put junk up in front and it becomes not such a good user experience, the search engine loses its value. It loses its circulation. People go elsewhere because they can get a better experience. That hurts the search engine. So that is why SEO over the years has changed so much, because they want to take these guys that know how to manipulate the system and they want to kick them to the dirt pretty often, pretty frequently.
Well, so that then I mean, I have heard in some of the circles that I run in, SEO is dead, and SEO doesn't work anymore, and whatever other nasty thing you want to say about it, but it
I can
sounds as if you're saying that ain't so true.
SEO will never die.
Got
The thing, as long as there's people searching and there's a search engine feeding up results, SEO is alive and well.
Got it.
I can guarantee you, anybody that says SEO is dead, they've got a different product they want to sell you.
So they're trying to sell you a way to do it other than via SEO.
Yeah. They're trying to divert you into something else that's probably not as good. Now, here's one thing that I've learned over the years. SEO, this traffic, it is the absolute best traffic on the planet. There's no better place to advertise because it is inflow advertising. And what I mean by that is, think about it. You've got somebody that's searching right now for something, and they're going to come in contact with it right now when they want it. All other forms of advertising are disruptive. They're trying to grab attention to get you to look at something you're not in mode looking for. Right? You're looking at a magazine, you're
right.
watching TV, you're doing all these other things. Even online, like social media, it's the same thing. It's disruptive advertising.
Got it.
When somebody's on Google and they're searching for something, chances are they have their credit card in their hand and they're ready to buy it. There's no other, it's like the perfect storm. There's no better place to be than in the right place at the right time. And that's when somebody's looking to purchase your product or service. And that's search engine optimization. That's the search in a ball of wax right there.
So how do you take advantage, if you know that Google is the grand aggregator? How do you take advantage of that to the very best of your abilities?
Well, there used to be two big components of it, and recently there is a third one that has come into play. And I'll tell you about the first two because most people have heard of these. They call it on-page optimization. And what that is, that's the actual code of your website. That's making sure that you've got your title tags so Google can figure out what your site's all about. You've got good descriptions, so when people look at it, they know what your site's about and they can click through to you. And a good user experience on the site itself, because Google does see that. And that's going to be part of the third thing I'm going to talk about. But the second thing is off page. So you have your on page. This is the stuff you can do to your website, make the code good, make it look good, make it be good for the users. That's on page. Off page is kind of like a popularity contest.
Okay.
Google got to the point where it really couldn't trust on page alone because everybody got so good at it. So it didn't really know who was best or how to gauge that anymore. So it moved to off page. You still need your on page to get it to look at you, but now it's going to use off page, kind of like, think of it as a popularity contest. When people link to you as a source of information, that's like a vote for popularity for you.
Got it.
So off page is about getting everyone out there to link to you so Google sees that and takes notice. Because it's like Google is like in this thing where it doesn't want to miss out. It's got serious FOMO, fear of missing out. And that's one of its triggers in SEO.
Pretty amazing.
I use the FOMO trigger all the time because if Google sees other sources pointing to you, it doesn't want to miss out. It wants to point to you too. So trying to listing yourself in directories, getting other website owners to link to you, writing articles that go on other people's sites that point back to you as the source of information and for more information. All of that stuff, Google sees it and it doesn't want to miss out. If you start becoming popular, they want to feature you because they don't want somebody going to another place to get to you. They want to be the,
I mean, it makes their business model makes sense,
yeah,
obviously, in what they're working to do. So
yeah.
you can utilize that. And so those are the first two. Then what's the grand poobah here?
Now, everybody in the SEO world got so good at that second one, just like they did on the first one. Then Google hit the point where they're like, are these links real? Are they live or are they memory links? And it got to the point again where it couldn't trust that. So it brought in a third piece into its algorithm, and that was AI, artificial intelligence.
Wow.
And that's what they're using now to kind of figure out what a good user experience looks like. And AI is all about the user. It's trying to determine the intent of the user, and it's trying to figure out, based on that intent, who is the best match. Because Google's, it's a matchmaker. It's taking somebody that's looking for something and finding somebody that has that something and putting them together. So it's just like a matchmaker for products and services. kind of like Be Connected is a matchmaker for business owners that need to find each other.
Right, absolutely.
So it in itself is another form of a search engine. It's a search engine for people to find one another. So it's very, very interconnected, this whole search thing and finding what you want and what
So
you
then
need.
if they're throwing AI at it, it would seem, and I might be way off on this, possibly, that those who have been in the game for a period of time can create that optimum user experience for a period of time, but then AI will, in its infinite wisdom, categorize it good, bad, indifferent, which means then you've got to be pretty flexible, I would think.
Well,
am I anywhere close on this?
Well, yeah, kind of. The thing with the AI is it's like a living, breathing thing. It's learning every day by looking at what people are doing. Like if somebody searches for a particular keyword, there's 10 results that come up on the page for them to choose from. So the AI is seeing which one do they click on, and what happens after the click. Were they satisfied? Did they get what they wanted? Or did they come back and click on another one because they might not have got what they wanted? So it's keeping score on all of that. And if you've got a site that people are clicking through and they're getting what they want and they're finishing their browser session with you and not going back and searching again, they're like, well, that's where we should be sending people. If you've got a site like, I don't know if you've heard of a thing called bounce rate. This is a measurement that a lot of webmasters use to gauge how well their site's doing as far as that interaction with people. If you have a high bounce rate, that's not good because Google sees that and it doesn't want to send people to you if they're not getting what they want, right? Because they're not creating a good user experience by doing that.
So then that would go into website design. Mm-hmm. And process. So if you haven't refreshed your website in the last, what period of time are you probably in trouble?
It's not so much about refreshing the content. If your content is good, there's no reason to refresh it. There's a lot of people that have evergreen content and they have good user experiences. So that's not where the problem lies. The problem, one of the biggest problems for the little guy as far as this AI thing goes, is one of the things that the AI has figured out is when people know the brand name and they attach the brand name to a keyword. And this has become a big problem for the little guys because nobody knows about their brand. They only know about what they're looking for, but they're not attaching a brand name to it. That's why if you go to Google right now, you can search for almost anything. And what you'll get is big brands being featured at the top. You know, if you're looking for a home item, like for home improvement, you're going to see Home Depot, guaranteed. You're going to see Lowe's, you're going to see Ace, you're going to see the big players because people know their name and they're sending that signal through, and Google's picking up on it. They're like, oh, these people want Home Depot. Or if you're searching for products, most people click through to an Amazon link. So Google's AI is figuring that out. Why don't we just put those at the top? That's what they want. It's all about them figuring out the intent. And they do that by looking at actual action of the users. So, and this is the only part of SEO throughout the whole history of it that's almost impossible to manipulate. Because you're talking about real users.
Yeah, I would think that it would be tremendously difficult because you have to again assure the user experience, and there's not a way of really falsifying that.
Yeah, and that is exactly why those people are saying SEO is dead, because they don't know how to work with it anymore.
So it's more the matter of the SEO, the former SEO experts are dead.
Exactly.
So it's not necessarily SEO itself. It's the style or the education or the not keeping up with what's really going on.
Yeah, it's just understanding what are those factors that Google's looking for to give it FOMO, right?
Yeah.
If there's a bunch of people clicking a particular brand, Google's going to have FOMO. It's going to want to feature that brand. So we always backwards engineer. We look at Google's patents and all that. And we discovered that exactly what I had thought was absolutely right on. It's built into their patents. It's looking for those user interactions. It's looking for search signals, what people search for and what they do after they've searched, the clicks. So one of the things that I've been really, really good at over the years is figuring out how to manipulate that search engine. And when I saw this, it was the most brilliant thing I've ever seen Google do, is move this direction. And for me, it opened up an opportunity because I know how to do that. I know how to create those search signals, and we went to work creating a software that we can run as an app on people's cell phones and desktop computers. And the app gets signals from our central server on what search to run on that piece of equipment and what to do after. So we're actually able to train Google's AI by sending these signals into it for the little.
Nice of you to help them.
Nice of me to help them figure out who belongs at the top, right?
Exactly. That's very kind of you.
But, you know, I've always been the advocate for the little guy. I'm here to fight for the little guy. And that's exactly what this does, because they don't have brand recognition. So they're almost like out of the game just by default. So that's where I come in, and I can level the playing field. I can give them that name recognition artificially without being able to be detected that it's artificial. And that's kind of the key to real long-lasting SEO, when you can stay under the radar, get the job done, and never be seen.
That sounds pretty utopic. So for the little guy or littler guy that would like to take advantage of something like that, how do they do that?
They could go to our site. We have a special that we've put together just for your viewers. And the site is internetdominators.com. And we set up the special at /SS Boost. That's for Scott Speaks Boost. And, you know, it's just for your users. And we've done a phenomenal offer that is absolutely guaranteed. I can guarantee results with this. There are some qualifiers. You have to qualify for this. So if you go on there, you'll see all the qualifications and all that. And we can do a future show if you like, and we can go
Yeah,
deeper into this.
yeah, because we hadn't talked about this, so it's really fascinating to understand the changing dynamics of. There's no doubt that the world went online last year.
Yeah.
It had to. It was self-preservation. If you couldn't physically leave your building, my goodness, or you couldn't get people to come to your building, you had to go to a way that you were at least available.
Yeah.
So those who had that skill set probably had a pretty awesome year online last year, right?
Well, I can tell you personally, it was our best year on record. 2020 was absolutely phenomenal for us.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And
Well, and we
about the outcome of it. Now I'm driving around my new toy because of how good 2020 was.
that's exactly it. Well, that's why we want to we want to help everybody else be able to get their toys and get their businesses really up to snuff, because it's obvious that everybody made the move to online. I've been talking about it for a long time, and I think we've kind of figured out how to do our business online, obviously doing shows like this on a daily basis and getting information out. So we're not the only ones who have made that move. Now we'd like to do it, the best way possible, obviously. So yeah, I'd love to do another, we'll do far more shows because again, this is important information that many times when I'm standing on stage, I'll ask the question, how many of you don't know what you don't know? Is it fair to say that somebody knows what you don't know? Is it even possible me or my guest knows what you don't know? And so that's one of the reasons I love doing the shows, because I love learning about things that I had no clue even existed. Because again, the overall, not the overall, but there were many people saying, SEO is dead. I mean, don't even bother with SEO.
Yeah. Now, one thing I can absolutely assure you of is if you have a business that people are searching for what you offer, SEO is very important, especially now and especially in the future.
Well, I would think so because so many people have now come over. That's why I was asking a little bit about the refreshing, because not to know the numbers or to do the numbers, but if 10 people were on the internet and all of a sudden 10 more had to jump on because of the change, the chances are the 10 new are going to have probably some newer approaches and things like that, because they haven't been there. They don't know anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the 10 existing are all of a sudden like, this was going really well until you guys showed up.
Well, yeah, anything, the early adopters get the advantage of little competition. And that's the same with the internet. I've been in this since the mid 90s, and back then it was like taking candy from a baby.
I'm sure.
It was crazy how easy it was to make money back then and how to get people on your site. And so,
well, that's what we want to do, is we want to drive a lot of people to these shows so that they can learn the things that they need to learn and take the actions they need to take. More than anything, it's the same thing. I want to help the people that they just don't know what they don't know, and get them good quality information. So again, this is internetdominators.com/SS boost.
Yep.
BOOST.
That's
right?
it.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I mean, I want to play with it ourselves. I mean, what fun. I mean, it only makes sense, right? To utilize the tools and capabilities. And look forward to having you back on many times, because if there's an expert on the internet, you would be it.
Yeah, there's lots of things I could cover on conversion and how to get online sales and all that good stuff. But the core of it is getting people onto your site that are looking for you. And that's search. That is the foundation.
So search is the foundation of the internet and of your online marketing and everything like that. It's interesting. it sounds like almost a simple little throwaway comment, but the reality is I haven't heard anybody talking about that.
Yeah, and the reality, as important as search is, when I teach marketing, it's the last thing I talk about, because you got to have everything else ready first. If you don't have your sales process in place, if you don't have your marketing right, and you drive traffic to it and you have problems, the traffic is just a magnifying glass. So you don't want to magnify problems. You want to fix the problems first and then magnify success.
Makes a ton of sense. Actually, oh, who'd have thought we'd talk common sense today?
That's right. That's amazing, right?
Exactly. Well, John, I really appreciate you being here. Again, we'll set up another show in the not too distant future, and we'll talk some of these other highly important areas of online. Again, everybody can take advantage of John's offer today at internetdominators.com/SS Boost. And I'm Scott Schilling, your host. Really appreciate you being here. We'll see you again tomorrow, exact same time. God bless.